Well, good evening. My name is Jeffrey Mullen. I'll be acting as the chairman of this continued hearing. I'm chairman of the Board of Appeals for this continued hearing. With me are Nicholas Gray and Frank O'Brien, both members of the board. The participants and people listening in will recall that this is a continued hearing from the hearing we held on November 1st, 2021 on the application of Hang Lin regarding legalizing a front entry addition at his home at 97 Guilford Road, along with the construction of an 18-foot by 22-foot carport. The front entry addition and the carport were constructed without a building permit in violation of the terms of the zoning bylaw, which would require a variance from both the front yard and side yard setback requirements, all of which was detailed in the November 1st hearing. At the hearing, we discussed whether or not the improvements were made in accordance with the building code, and there was an issue as to whether or not that was fixable. There's the position of the building commissioner, building inspector with respect to that, building commissioner with respect to that, and issue as to whether or not Mr. Lin was able to speak with his neighbors. So the board elected to continue the hearing until tonight and requested that Mr. Lin address both issues. So since then, I'm gonna have Mr. Lin speak when we get to him. But since then, he has provided us with a text message from his neighbor at 97. Well, Mr. Hang Lin is the applicant. Mr. Dean Lee is the person with whom we spoke, and he's here with us tonight. He indicated that he got in touch with his neighbor, whose name is Kwai, at 93 Guilford, who gave us a text message that in which he indicated that he wanted Mr. Kwai to approve the carport. And let me read it. Long story short, I built an addition to my house, which is the mudroom in front of my house. I also installed a carport above my driveway. The town of Milton wants to ensure that my neighbor is okay with my newly built additions because I didn't pull a permit for these additions. If I can have your response via this text confirming that you have no problem with it, I'd appreciate it I'd appreciate it. That is all. Hope you have a wonderful day. Okay, no problem, said Mr. Kwai, who is the resident at 93 Guilford. So for everybody listening, I know Mr. Gray made a site visit. It's kind of an unusual situation where Guilford Road is the main street, but this road, it also wraps around in a bit of a, I guess it's a bit of a button hook. It's kind of an upside down L-shaped property, abutting Squantum Street. Mr. Dean Lee's property is hard up against the expressway. Mr. Kai is the only real abutter. He has now approved it, so via that text, which I think is the first time we've gotten the approval via a text. But I suppose in today's day and age, that's what you do. We also have a memo from the building commissioner to the Board of Appeals. This memo will serve to inform the building code issues violations conveyed to the owner 97 Guilford Road, Mr. Dean, are resolvable, and he will be directed as to how to resolve those should zoning relief be granted in this case. If relief is not granted, the owner will be required to move the offending portion of the two structures. So for the members, for those people will recall that in order to approve these, we require both a front and a side yard variance to make them conforming to the requirements of the zoning bylaw. And what Mr. Prondak is indicating to us is that while they were constructed without a permit and in violation of the building code, he believes them to be resolvable. So all of that's a long way of saying, this is why we're here tonight. I see Mr. Deanne Lee is here. Mr. Lee, do you have anything to add to that?
I hope that with the requirements from you guys, the last time the board wanted the neighbor and Mr. Product to give the go sign. I hope that you guys will approve this. Again, I just want to say that it's just a very first time home buyer mistake. You know, I simply think that because I'm in a dead end street, I'm not bothering anybody. So I asked my friends to just put it up. There was no other intention, but I'm open to go through this process and just make everything right because obviously breaking down the two additions will not be too not be too great, and I hope that the board can give some sort of understanding for me and my wife.
Okay, all right. Let me put a finer point on the point you just made. The plot plan shows that the front entry has been constructed at a distance of 19 feet from the front yard, from the front property line, when 20 is required by section 6B3. And the carport's been constructed 4.1 feet from the right property line when 10 feet are required under section 6C1 side yard. So that's just the extent of the variances that you're asking. Let me ask some my colleagues if they've got any question for the applicant.
No, I don't.
Mr. O'Brien.
Chairman, thank you for that. Mr. Lee, if the board would decide to grant the relief that you're seeking, one of the standard conditions that the board imposes in pretty much every case is that the changes the addition. In this case, it would be the mudroom in the front of the house would have to be finished in a manner in accordance with the structure and style of the building. In this case, that would require that the siding that's currently covering the addition in the front be changed, at least in my opinion. I'd leave that to my fellow board members. I wanted to make you aware of that.
I can absolutely. We try to pick the yellow color. Was not well. We picked the closest. However, if you wanted me to, of course, I can call a painter and they'll try to match with the yellow house. I can do that.
That would be, Mr. Chairman, that would be one of the conditions that I would want to see happen should the board decide to grant this particular variance, that in a manner consistent with our previous decisions, that the additions be finished in a style that comports with the color and structure of the house.
Okay. Are there any further questions of the applicant?
Not for me.
Is the board prepared to rule on this matter?
I am.
Mr. O'Brien.
Mr. Chairman, this is a unique case, and it is a case that prior to receiving correspondence from the building commissioner indicating that the building code issues were resolvable, it was not a case I was prepared to grant relief on. However, given the building commissioner's letter, given the fact that this is one of those unique spaces in the town of Milton that meets the definition of a uniquely shaped parcel, et cetera, it is a highly unique location. So given the particular circumstances of this and the building commissioner's letter, I would be prepared to vote in favor of granting the relief sought.
Mr. Gray.
I second Mr. O'Brien's comments. To my mind, this is a classic example of a of a parcel that fits within the definition of the variance statute, and I would just state further that the left side variance, sorry, what am I trying to say? The left side of the property, as you face it, abuts the expressway.
Yep.
So the very close, if we granted this relief, the carport would be only 4.1 feet from the wall of the expressway. Now, if this were from the property line, which is the wall of the expressway, if this were another property in another location in a neighborhood abutted by houses, that might be more of an issue. But I think in this case, it's difficult to see how that the carport abutting so closely to the property line could be an issue to the neighborhood. It's very, there's no other, in my view, there's no other resident that would be affected by that. It's barely visible. So I would be in favor of granting both of the variances being sought.
I agree. I agree with my colleagues. I would say it's unique. It's unfortunate that it happened, and I agree with Mr. O'Brien about the building commissioner's position, which I do think changes things quite a bit, and it gives us a sense that the code violations are of the type that are easily or are correctable. Let's say it that way. I don't know how easily they will be corrected, but they're correctable. The only comment I want to make is with respect to the improvements, since they've been constructed, I'd like to permit the applicant, I'd suggest that the applicant make the premises conform to the balance of the structure as nearly as practicable, given the fact that he might not be able to completely match that color. I went over there and looked at it myself. It's one of those things like you think you know yellow, and then you see it, and there's all kinds of different yellows. So I'd like to just modify that. I know that's not in our usual language, but I think in this case, as nearly as practicable, he can work with the building commissioner on that. I'd like to suggest that we make that one change, but otherwise I'd suggest that the premises should conform to the plans that have been submitted to the board and as modified to be compliant with the Commonwealth's building code. Well, is that acceptable to the members?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So all in favor of granting the relief that's been requested by the applicant?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Mr. Diane, so congratulations. You've got your variances.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're on your way to having this resolved. The board will write this up in a formal decision. There's an appeal period. We'll file that with the clerk of the town, and there's a 20-day appeal period, at which time you'll be able to pull your building permit, make the property conform, comply with the requirements of the order that the board is issuing today to make the premises compliant as nearly as practicable with respect to the balance of the structure, and you'll be on your way, and we wish you good luck.
Thank you. I will be sure to call a painter and try to match the color as much as possible. Once I do that, I will take a picture and send it to Beth.
Okay. That's
Mr. Mullen, just one last thing.
Mr. O'Brien.
Just a few words on the need to record the decision.
Oh, yeah. When you get the decision, Mr. Diane, you'll need to take that to the Norfolk Registry of Deeds in Dedham, have it recorded so that it runs with your land. There'll be instructions that will be provided to you, but you'll get the written decision from Ms. Sutton, and bring it to Dedham, have it recorded, and then there's a 20-day appeal period from the date that it's issued by the board, in which point people will have an opportunity to appeal. Once that's run, the appeal period will be over.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Okay, is further business for the board tonight? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Wait a minute. Who's going to write the decision?
Oh.
You just did one, didn't you, Frank?
Yeah, I just did. I think Nick just did one too.
I'll do it. I'll do it then.
I'm happy to do it. So
You want to do it?
I'm happy to do it.
So I can focus on 582?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll take care of 582. If you could write it, that'd be great. Thank you.
Will do.
Miss Bev, can you just let Mr. Prondak know what we did?
Absolutely tomorrow. Yes,
And thank him for his memo.
absolutely.
Very helpful.
Jeff, if you could shoot me an email, I didn't write down that modified language that you had suggested I should have, but I liked the sound of it. If you just
As nearly as practicable.
With respect to
nearly
balance of
practicable.
I wrote it down.
Oh,
Like
Fabulous.
the Oracle.
Thank you, sir.
See you
All
later.
right.
Good
good
night.
night.
All right, good night,
Good night,
guys.
all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.